It's the most famous locomotive in the whole world, a true icon of the last century, and it's adored by millions. Well, it visited my very own backyard and I just had to take a ride. Here's how, for the very first time, I met the Flying Scotsman. You can't get a more sleepy location than Mid Norfolk. So it came as a bit of a shock when it was announced that the Flying Scotsman was to visit the Mid Norfolk Railway. Think of the Pope visiting your parish church, or ABBA announcing a gig in your local pub. Yes, it was that kind of moment. Well, almost. Just to give some context, Mid Norfolk Railway is a 17.6-mile stretch of heritage railway line running through the sleepy heart of Norfolk between the rural market towns of Dereham and Wymondham. Given its semi-restored state, the line currently resembles part 1950s idyllic English country railway and part location for filming TV's zombie apocalypse drama, The Walking Dead. Owned and operated by a group of dedicated volunteers forming the Mid Norfolk Railway Preservation Trust, these heroes of railway restoration intend to make this stretch of historic standard gauge railway a gorgeous throwback to the glory days of rail travel, with a clutch of tiny but beautifully restored platforms and stations long since closed. No surprise then that a world icon of the rails should grace its presence as a fitting reward for the Trust's ongoing efforts. It's here in Dereham where I first laid eyes on it. Or is it a her or a him? What do you think, logo experts? Is there a gender attached to the Flying Scotsman? Let me know in the comments because I generally don't know, and I'll continue to refer to him, her as it. Built in Doncaster, England in 1923 for the princely sum of £7,944, the Flying Scotsman was the very first locomotive in the world to reach 100 miles per hour, cementing its iconic and beloved status early in its life. It's also the first locomotive to circumnavigate the world, although how? Well, you'll have to look that one up. Originally given the number 1472 when it left the factory, its number was soon changed to 4472 in 1924 when it was given the name Flying Scotsman, accurately reflecting its daily route from Edinburgh in Scotland to London in England, a route that had been in operation since 1862. In 1948 it was renumbered 60103, and that's the era of livery it sports today, following its extensive £4.2 million restoration in 2016. The livery choice was controversial to many purists, who would prefer it to be painted in its original LNER 1924 guise, numbered 4472 and painted apple green, not its British Railways guise, numbered 60103 and painted BR green. Controversy still rages to this day. What do you think about its colour and number? Leave a comment below because I'm on the fence here. Thankfully it's not a fence painted green. Anyway, back to the trip, and I was allocated a seat in first-class carriage and was mightily pleased with that because it reminded me of the famous scenes in the Harry Potter films, and I half expected to be attacked by dementors halfway through the journey. Luckily, upon departing our short journey, no such attack materialised, to the relief of my fellow compartment passengers, and with soul and happiness intact, we set off gently to the sound of hissing steam, piercing whistles, and that iconic and gorgeous chuffing sound we all love. The angelic white steam emanating from the front innocently masks the maelstrom of violence taking place in that fiery belly, and it's a genuine marvel that 130 tons of iron and steel, devoid of a single microchip, computer or modern electronics, could be engineered a century ago to pull so many carriages at up to 100 miles an hour using just the stark, pressurised pandemonium of fire and water. The engineering, given the resources available back then, is quite astounding even to this day. The journey lasted about an hour, with a stop to turn around halfway through. Disappointingly, the Flying Scotsman couldn't actually be uncoupled, turned and recoupled at the other end of the carriages, so it and all of us were effectively pulled back to Dereham Station by a loco attached at the other end. This made the homeward half hour slightly disappointing, as we all knew the Flying Scotsman wasn't actually pulling us for half the journey, nor did it reach anything like the speeds it was designed and built for. I'm not sure of our top speed along the route, but I'm guessing an Olympic cyclist could have reached our turning point before us. Perhaps in its old age it should be renamed the Dawdling Scotsman. At £35 for a ticket, this was an expensive hour, or should I say an authentic half hour. But each of the hour-long trips during the Flying Scotsman's month-long residency at Mid Norfolk Railway were totally sold out, so I'm willing to concede that it was money well spent on an experience that doesn't come around these parts more than once a decade. Well, at least I get to leave you with one of my favourite jokes for once, in context. Ready? Did you hear about the train enthusiast who was run over by the Flying Scotsman? He was chuffed to bits. I'll get my coat.